Nearly 1,000 years ago, a king in South India looked across the sea, not across a river, not across a battlefield, not across a mountain pass, across the sea. From the Tamil coast, his ships sailed beyond India, beyond Sri Lanka, beyond the familiar waters of the Bay of Bengal, toward the islands and ports of Southeast Asia. This was not the modern age. There were no engines, no satellites, no radio, no steel warships. And yet, a South Indian dynasty sent its power across the ocean. Why? Why would a king from South India risk ships, men, money, and reputation on a campaign so far from home? Was it only for conquest? Was it only for glory? Or was there something hidden beneath the waves? A secret network of trade, temples, ports, merchants, and sea routes that made the ocean more valuable than land. This is the mystery of the Chola dynasty. How did a kingdom from South India turn the sea into a stage of empire? And why did one of India's most powerful historical moments happen not in the northern plains, but on the waters of the Indian Ocean? When many people think of India's greatest empires, they look north. They think of the Ganges Plain. They think of Ashoka. They think of the Mauryan Empire. They think of the Gupta Golden Age. They think of Delhi. They think of the Mughals. And those stories matter. But they are not the whole story of India. Because far to the south, in the Tamil-speaking lands, another kind of power was rising. This power did not only face rivers and roads, it faced the ocean. The Cholas rose in South India, especially around the fertile Kaveri River Delta in present-day Tamil Nadu. At first, that may sound like a local story, a river, a region, a kingdom. But look closer. The Kaveri Delta was rich in rice. Its villages could support armies, temples, artists, and administrators. Its cities could collect wealth. Its temples could organize society. But there is another clue in the mystery. If you want to understand why the Cholas could project power across the ocean, do not only look at their ships, look at their temples. Because in the Chola world, a temple was not just a place of worship, it was a center of power. And its coast opened directly onto the Bay of Bengal. That detail changes everything, because to us, the ocean may look like a boundary. But to the Cholas, the ocean was not a wall, it was a road. Movement of rice from fields to cities, movement of wealth from villages to temples, movement of goods from ports to foreign markets. A kingdom could grow rich from rice, but a maritime empire could grow rich from connection. This was the Chola advantage. The Kaveri Delta gave them agricultural strength. Their temples gave them religious and economic power. Their ports gave them access to foreign trade. Their ships gave them reach. This is the first clue in the mystery. The Cholas did not become powerful only because they controlled land. They became powerful because they understood movement. Movement of ships across the Bay of Bengal. Movement of faith, art, language, and prestige across the Indian Ocean. In other words, the Cholas understood something that still shapes the modern world. Whoever controls movement controls power. And in the medieval Indian Ocean, movement happened by sea. Ships moved with the monsoon winds. Merchants waited for the right season. Goods moved from Arabia to India, from India to Southeast Asia, from Southeast Asia to China, and back again. Textiles, spices, horses, pearls, gems, ceramics, metal goods, and religious objects passed through ports. The ocean was not empty. It was alive. It was full of roots, full of money, full of news, full of ambition, and the Cholas were about to enter that world as one of its great powers. But before the Cholas could look across the ocean, they had to dominate their own region. South India was not an empty land waiting for one dynasty. It was full of rivals. The Pandyas were powerful. The Cheras had influence. The Pallavas had shaped earlier South Indian politics and architecture. The Chalukyas were major rivals in the Deccan. Every dynasty wanted land. Then came the king who changed the Chola story, Rajaraja Chola I. He came to power near the end of the 10th century, and under him, the Chola kingdom became an empire. But here is the important part. Rajaraja was not just a warrior. He was a ruler who understood that power must be seen. It must be carved into stone. He expanded Chola power across South India. He defeated rivals. He strengthened the state. He claimed the title Mummudi Chola, the Chola who wore the three crowns. The meaning was clear. The Cholas, Pandyas, and Cheras were the great Tamil royal traditions. By claiming the three crowns, Rajaraja was saying that the balance of South India had changed. The Cholas were no longer one power among many. They had become the leading power of the Tamil world. But if this were only a story of land conquest, it would not be the Chola mystery. The real question begins when Rajaraja looked south. across the narrow water, towards Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was a major center of religion, kingship, agriculture, and trade. It sat near one of the most important watery passages in South India, the Palk Strait. On a map, the Palk Strait looks small, but history often turns on small places. A narrow waterway can become a gate for ships, a gate for goods, a gate for soldiers, a gate for taxes and influence. Rajaraja invaded Sri Lanka and took control of the northern part of the island. This was not only an act of conquest, it was a strategic move, because controlling northern Sri Lanka meant influencing the waters between India and the island. And influencing those waters meant entering the world of Indian Ocean trade. Now the Cholas were not only a South Indian land empire, they were becoming a sea power. So the mystery deepens. Why does a South Indian king care so much about Sri Lanka? Because Sri Lanka was a key to the ocean, and the ocean was a key to wealth. In the medieval world, wealth did not only come from farmland, it came from ports. Imagine standing at a Chola port. The air smells of salt, oil, spices, and wet rope. Workers carry bundles of cloth. Merchants speak in different languages. A ship from the west has brought horses. Another ship carries goods towards Southeast Asia. A trader has news from Sri Lanka. Another has heard stories from China. Priests, sailors, accountants, craftsmen, and foreign merchants all move through the same space. This is not a small local world. This is a global world before the modern age. And somewhere behind this movement stands the Chola state, watching, taxing, protecting, benefiting. This is why the ocean mattered, not because the Cholas wanted water. They wanted the world that moved across it. A temple could hold land. It could employ priests. It could employ musicians. It could employ dancers. It could employ accountants. The greatest example is the Brihadisvara temple at Thanjavur. Built under Rajaraja Chola, it is one of the most extraordinary monuments in India. Its central tower rises like a mountain. Its scale is overwhelming. Its stone seems to say one thing again and again. This king had power. This king had wealth. This king had divine approval. This king wanted to be remembered. The Brihadisvara temple was not only religious architecture, it was imperial communication. It told people that the Chola king was not merely a ruler of land, he was part of a sacred order. It connected wealth to worship. Armies disappear, battles fade, but stone remains. This is why the Cholas were so powerful. They understood memory. They understood symbols. A temple made that story visible. A fleet made that story travel. The Cholas also created some of the greatest bronze sculptures in world history. The most famous image is Shiva as Nataraja, Lord of the Dance. In this image, Shiva dances inside a circle of flame. One hand holds the drum of creation. Another holds the fire of destruction. One gesture offers protection. One foot crushes ignorance. The raised foot offers release. It is not only art, it is a whole universe in motion. Creation, destruction, time, fear, protection, liberation. This matters because it shows the Chola Empire was not great in only one way. It was not only military, it was not only commercial, it was not only religious. It was all of these things together. A civilization that could send fleets across the sea could also cast bronze images of astonishing beauty. But now the mystery reaches its most dramatic moment. Rajaraja built the foundation. His son expanded the dream. His name was Rajendra Chola I. Rajendra inherited a powerful empire. He inherited armies. He inherited temples. He inherited ports. He inherited influence in Sri Lanka. He inherited a state that understood the connection between land and sea. But Rajendra did not simply protect what his father built. He pushed it further. First, he looked north, toward the Ganges. The Ganges was not just a river, it was one of the most sacred symbols in Indian civilization. For a South Indian king to claim connection to the Ganges was a powerful statement. It meant the Cholas were not simply a southern dynasty, they were claiming prestige across India. Rajendra took the title Gangaikonda Chola, the Chola who took the Ganges. Then he founded a new capital, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, the city of the Chola who conquered the Ganges. The name itself was a message. Every time someone entered the city, they entered a story of power. But Rajendra's greatest mystery was not in the north. It was in the east, across the Bay of Bengal. In 1025 AD, Rajendra Chola launched one of the most remarkable naval expeditions in Asian history. His fleet sailed towards Southeast Asia. Now we return to the central question. Why? Why would a South Indian king send ships across the sea toward places so far away? Why risk so much? Why not simply stay in India? The answer lies in the map. Between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea were some of the most important trade routes in the world. At the center of this world was the Strait of Malacca. It connected the Indian Ocean to the South China Sea. Goods moving between India, Southeast Asia, and China often passed through this region. Whoever influenced this world could influence trade. And one of the great powers of this maritime world was Srivijaya. Srivijaya was based around Sumatra. It was not a land empire like Rome. It was a sea-based power. Its strength came from ports, islands, ships, and control of movement. It was powerful because it sat near the crossroads of trade. And in 1025, Rajendra Chola challenged that power. He wanted to show that Chola power could reach the sea routes themselves. He wanted to protect Chola prestige. He wanted to influence trade. He wanted to send a message to the maritime world. And the message was clear. The Cholas could cross the Bay of Bengal. The Cholas could strike far from home. The Cholas were not trapped inside India. The Cholas understood the ocean. This is the key to the entire episode. The Chola expedition was not only a military event. It was a revelation. It revealed that the ocean was political. The ocean had power. The ocean had wealth. The ocean had choke points. Think about what this expedition required. Ships had to be gathered. Crews had to be organized. Supplies had to be prepared. Sailors had to understand the monsoon winds. Command had to know where to go. The Cholas did not have to control every island to become powerful. They had to understand the network. In that sense, the Chola Empire was not only a land empire, it was a network empire. Its power moved through ports, through ships, through merchant guilds, through temples, through tribute, through royal titles, through fear, through memory, and through the sea. The Cholas crossed the ocean because the ocean was where the wealth moved. They struck Southeast Asia because Southeast Asia sat near the gates of trade. They built temples because temples turned wealth into sacred authority. Everything connects. The rice field, the temple, the port, the merchant, the sailor, the king. Not one thing, a system. And once you see the system, the mystery changes. The sea is destiny. This is why the Chola story feels surprisingly modern. Today, the world still depends on sea routes. Oil moves by sea, food moves by sea, manufactured goods move by sea. Connection is power, movement is power. The sea is not empty space. It is the place where worlds meet. The Cholas became one of the great powers inside it. They showed that India was connected by southern ports and ocean winds. This also changes how we understand India's relationship with Southeast Asia. The Bay of Bengal was a bridge, not a one-way road. And the Chola age shows how active that bridge could be. Ships carried goods. Religious specialists carried ideas. So why are the Cholas not as famous globally as Rome, Persia, China, or the Mongols? Part of the answer is that maritime power is harder to see. A land empire is easy to draw. You color a large area on a map. But sea power is different. It appears as routes, ports, ships, trade links. It does not always look like one solid block of territory. But that does not make it weak. The power that controls where the world moves. By the middle of the 11th century, the Chola Empire had reached one of the greatest peaks in South Indian history. It projected power across the Bay of Bengal. It connected Tamil society to the Indian Ocean world. India's past was not only shaped by northern capitals, it was also shaped by southern coasts, not only by rivers, but by oceans, not only by armies marching across land, but by ships crossing the sea. But history never stops moving. After Rajaraja and Rajendra, the Cholas remained powerful for generations. But no empire can hold its peak forever. Rivals returned, regional politics shifted, trade networks changed, the empire slowly declined. But decline is not disappearance. The Cholas left behind something that could not easily be erased. Their temples remained, their bronzes remained, their memory remained. Even after their political power faded, their cultural power endured. And now we can finally answer the mystery. The Chola dynasty was an empire of connection, and that is why their story matters. They force us to redraw the map of Indian history, with the Indian Ocean as a living world, a world where South India stood at the center. Together, father and son created a moment when South India looked beyond the horizon and made the ocean part of its empire. So the next time you look at a map of India, Do not only look north, look south, because nearly 1,000 years ago, that ocean was one of India's greatest stages. The Cholas stood there, and for one unforgettable chapter, South India ruled the Indian Ocean.